If one US citizen was suddenly discovered, saying, hey, I really want to get out and I'm stuck, would this trigger a all hands on deck type thing to get that person out, whatever the date?
Again, we expect there could be some, but I'm not going to get into it further.
So, again, the goal of the Biden administration is to just obscure what is happening in Afghanistan long enough for us to leave, and then they hope that you forget about everything that just happened. We've had some tens of thousands of Afghans who've been evacuated. We still have thousands of Americans on the ground in Kabul, which raises the question, why aren't those Americans the first ones out? Right? I want the Afghans out too. Right? We made promises to those people. Those people spent 20 years fighting wars in cahoots with the United States. They put their lives on the line for American interests, because yes, we have interests in Afghanistan against terrorism, which we're now going to pretend we don't have, for the sake of a dumb talking point. But if you're going to evacuate people and you're the American government, the first people you should be evacuating are American citizens. So where are they? Why can't we get them out? Why weren't they the first people out? The reason the Pentagon has been spending days obscuring how many people were Americans on those flights is because the number is really low. Again, a week ago, we had 2,200 Americans out. Today, we have 4,000 Americans out. We've been flying 10,000 people out a day, 20,000 people out a day. Why aren't more Americans out? What are the obstacles? Why isn't this administration being honest with us? Well, Jen Psaki has one goal and one goal only, and that is to prevent people from using the word stranded. So once again, Jen Psaki and Peter Doocy went over it, again, whether Americans are in fact stranded in Kabul.
What do you say to the American citizen in Kabul that Fox spoke to this morning? Her name is, she's going by Fatima. She says, we are stranded at home for 4 days, 3 days. We didn't hear anything from anywhere, and they're saying to go to the airport, but we're not being given clear guidance. Our emails are getting ignored. Say no Americans are stranded. This is someone in Kabul who says, I am stranded. So is there a better word for somebody who can't leave the house to get to the airport because Jake Sullivan says ISIS is outside the airport?
I would welcome you providing their phone number, and we will reach out to them today.
Oh, we'll reach out to them. And if you give her their phone number, then they'll reach out. That's the important thing, right? They're not stranded because Jen Psaki told Peter Doocy, who is not a spokesperson or a lawyer for this woman or this woman herself, that she is on call. Well, great, Jen. I'm sure that person finds that super comforting and very, very, very helpful. By the way, Jen Psaki also said that, as everybody knows, when we say we have to be out by August 31st, that means civilian evacuations have to end before August 31st. Because, again, we have to get the military out too. So here is Jen Psaki admitting as much.
Does that mean that the evacuations will stop before the actual 31st, so then there is time to get the troops and their machinery and weaponry out of there?
That would be correct, yes, that there would need to be time to wind down the presence. I will note, though, that the purpose of this statement is to provide additional context of what the president conveyed to the G7, which includes a number of very key components as he assesses day by day.
Oh, well, he's assessing it day by day. And if we know one thing, it is that Joe Biden is definitely on top of the news, which is why he has failed to actually be in concert with the news for weeks on end and was lying to the American public or was ignorant of what was actually going on. So if he's on top of it, Joe Biden is on top of it the same way that your grandmother in a nursing home is on top of the news. Sure. Okay. All right. By the way, Jen Psaki also admits there could be Americans left in Afghanistan after August 31st. This is saying the quiet part out loud right here.
If one US citizen was suddenly discovered, saying, hey, I really want to get out and I'm stuck, who knows where, somewhere in Afghanistan or in Kabul, he's got any problem, would this trigger a diplomatic, military, all hands on deck type thing to get that person out, whatever the date?
Our commitment continues to be to U.S. citizens. If they want to leave, we will help get them out.
No matter what the date.
Again, we expect there could be some, but I'm not going to get into it further. Go ahead.
She's not going to get into it further. There could be Americans who are left in Afghanistan. We expect there will be Americans left in Afghanistan after August 31st, but then we'll be working back channels to try and get them out. None of this had to happen. None of it. How delusional is all of this? How much do you trust this administration? I don't trust this administration further than I can throw it, which is not very far. The Taliban have said, we are not allowing people to get to the airport. Right? The Taliban spokesperson, in fact, came out and said, we are not going to allow Afghans any longer to exit the country. They said, quote, change your policy. Please don't encourage our friends to leave. Don't encourage our engineers, our doctors, our military. We need them. We are not in favor of allowing Afghans to leave. So the Taliban is closing the doors on Afghans trying to get out because they are either going to conscript them into the Taliban or they're going to murder them. But the good news is Jen Psaki says, well, we expect the Taliban to let them leave. Here's Jen Psaki.
We've seen over the past 9 days, a rush of people attempt to come to the airport. We certainly understand that, but that also creates a security risk and one that we have great concern about. So to be clear, individuals who are eligible for special immigrant visas or others who we are helping facilitate their evacuation and their departure, we are in touch with them or working to be in touch with them about how and when to come to the airport, as well as American citizens, as you well know, and we expect that they will be able to reach the airport.
Oh, we expect that they'll be, well, and it's not like the Taliban's in control of security, lady, which we all know. So Politico, even Politico's like, this is gaslighting. Politico has an entire piece today titled The Definition of Gaslighting. As chaos unfolds at Kabul airport, Biden team projects calm. I don't think the president's rhetoric matches the conditions on the ground, one former State Department official said. Tens of thousands of Afghans awaiting U.S. visas and thousands of American citizens are still stuck in Kabul, unable to find safe passage through frantic crowds, Taliban checkpoints, and Afghan guards stationed outside the airport. Gunfire erupted outside of the north gate of Hamid Karzai International Airport on Monday, killing a number of Afghan security forces. American officials have repeatedly had to close the gates for extended periods, leaving guards to turn away even U.S. passport holders. Multiple sources point to deteriorating conditions inside the airport, including lack of power and sanitation. Tension has emerged between American troops on the ground and State Department officials trying to extract U.S. citizens and Afghan allies. Meanwhile, the West Wing is looking increasingly disconnected from reality as the Biden White House strives to project a sense of calm confidence even as the Taliban tightens their grip on Afghanistan. If you look at what we're doing now and evacuating thousands of people every day, it has been a tremendous piece of work, said Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin on Sunday. While the evacuation has significantly ramped up in recent days, says Politico, the reality on the ground belies the narrative the situation is under control. The scenes around Kabul airport have been marked by violence, disorganization, bureaucratic infighting, and delays, according to video and text exchanges viewed by Politico. The result is an administration that appears increasingly out of touch as reports from Kabul continue to reflect a chaotic evacuation. I don't think the president's rhetoric matches the conditions on the ground, says Jenna Ben-Yehuda, a 12-year veteran of the Bush and Obama State Department and president of the Truman Center, which is trying to evacuate Afghan allies. They keep saying this was inevitable. There was absolutely a way to avoid this. If that's not the definition of gaslighting, I don't know what is, said Chris Purdy, project manager of Veterans for American Ideals at Human Rights First. In order to speed the evacuation effort, defense officials in recent days proposed retaking Bagram Air Base. Using Bagram as an additional location for flights out of the country would help ease the backlog at Kabul. But the proposal was nixed because the White House and some Pentagon officials worried it would require deploying a large number of additional forces and could spark a conflict with the Taliban. It was discussed, but was not a good option, said one senior defense official. Bagram would have been an airborne assault, just a huge operation. Would have looked like a re-invasion. You can't look like a re-invasion, guys. I mean, we're busy surrendering here. I don't know what you guys are doing, but we're surrendering around here. And if our surrender gets in the way of Americans leaving successfully, well, surrender was really important because Joe Biden wanted to go to sleep at night knowing he had surrendered in Afghanistan. And he goes to sleep at like 6:30 at night. So we had to get out of there right quick. The Pentagon has acknowledged conducting only limited rescue operations within the city to bring Americans into the airport. But officials are running up against that August 31st deadline. And I don't think I've seen it characterized better than Richard Engel of NBC News did last night on NBC News. Here he was.
This war used to be called Operation Enduring Freedom, and it's turned out not to be enduring, and they're not leaving behind a society that is free. It is only free according to what the Taliban says it will be free. The Taliban promises that it will be free. So you could also look at this as a tremendously humiliating moment of American humiliation, right. Forced to leave on the Taliban's clock and with the Taliban's good graces.
That is correct. And that is Joe Biden's decision. There's no one else to blame for this, except the old man who says the buck stops with him. So the American people have said the buck stops with him. Now the question is going to be, where we go from here? How many Americans get left behind? How many Afghans get left behind? And will the American people continue to pressure the Biden administration to do the right thing and get people out? Or are they just going to forget about it the way that Joe Biden seems to think you will? Maybe he's just projecting his own short-term memory loss onto the American people. The battle for the culture is heating up. We here at the Daily Wire are making some big moves. So be sure to like, subscribe, ring that bell, because you're not going to want to miss a single moment.